We get started on the Dharma talk. Please join me in invoking the Buddha's name 3 times. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Since we've concluded the teachings on the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, per my own accord, I will do what I typically do when I finish a teaching section, is I will hold a Q&A session. So, free for all. So I have no agenda for you for once. You know, you may blabber about something that may or may not make sense to everybody, but this is your opportunity to ask questions. No dumb questions, just dumb people who don't ask them. So don't be dumb people. Be smart people. Actually be wise people. So if you have any questions about anything in Buddhism that we've covered, or you have any questions I may have not covered, anything we've done through any of the classes or retreats, I will answer most questions. So please.
I have one for you. When you're striving for something, let's say a job, how do you handle the difference between actually putting in effort and work versus like not holding on and attaching or putting too much into it?
Sorry, could you rephrase that question?
Yeah, so like if you're striving for something, let's say like a job.
Attracted to something?
Yeah, striving.
Striving, okay.
How do you balance between, I mean, you have to put in some effort, you don't want to attach yourself to the idea of getting it and failing versus something like, how do you balance that?
Great question. What would be the difference between getting any job and your dream job? What would be the difference?
Happiness, being content with getting up every day and actually going to it and enjoying it.
But I guess the strive behind it, what would be the difference? What kind of mindset, what kind of mentality, what kind of energy are you putting toward working as a cashier or working as CEO? Passion. What else? Mostly for you. It doesn't have to be a feeling, but think of I don't want to use the word attachment, but not a feeling. What would be something else that you can describe it that's not necessarily a feeling? Like,
mentality.
I'm sorry?
A mentality.
A mentality, yeah. What kind of mentality would you have? Because now you're at a crossroads, right? You can either go toward whatever job that would, let's say they both pay you the exact same amount of money, right? But one job is just a menial job, but the other one is your dream job. Like you've dreamt about this your entire life. What's gonna make you go right or left? Patience is a good word. Mm-hmm. For me, what I would attempt to answer that question, to at least to avoid the attachment part of the question, is quite literally asking yourself why, for one thing, right? I think we've covered how many times that we have to question ourselves with any decision that we make. Big decisions, small decisions, any decisions. The other than the patience of getting something or the passion that we put behind some type of effort is to a non-practitioner, non-mindfulness practitioner or meditator. There's no difference between getting what you want with any and every means possible versus just doing things, hoping for the best, waiting it out sometimes, right, with patience, putting all your effort in that you need to use. But the difference between I'm just going to use the word meditator or practitioner. The difference between a practitioner and a practitioner is the non-practitioner will do unwholesome things potentially, right? They will strive to that outcome with every means possible, right? Whether it's taking credit for someone else's work, whether it's putting other people's work down or putting themselves down, right, or throwing people under the bus, or sabotaging other people's work, right? Doing things in order to get yourself ahead, basically, right? Like you're ruining things in order to get yourself ahead, in order to get what you believe you want or need. And so by doing that, there's an attachment behind those efforts, right? Like I have to get this no matter what. And so you're doing everything no matter what, right? Whether it's good or bad, in order to get what you want, right? And so there's a lot of unwholesomeness behind every thought, speech, and action that you do that is driving you toward that goal. Whereas a practitioner would sit back and think, hopefully logically, through the whole process, right? As practitioners, whenever we make decisions, the formula that we should ask ourselves, or the question that we should ask ourselves is, will it bring harm to myself, to others? Not necessarily, not just physical harm, but mental harm, psychological harm, emotional harm, right? Because when you blame someone, right, for if someone made a mistake at work, if you blame them, or you take credit for them, or take credit away from them, or you throw them under the bus, that's going to deal some damage to them, right? And so there's harm being done. And so if you ask ourselves, will it bring harm to myself or to others? And if the answer is no, then it's a strive forward, right? Move ahead. But if it does bring harm to yourself, to others, then we got to sit back and kind of reevaluate things, right? And if we're able to do that, then there's less attachment toward that goal. There's less clinging toward what we're trying to achieve. And so instead of trying to steadfast through the whole process and get what we want as quickly as possible, because when we do that, there is a lot of attachment energy behind that, right? Because you want it so bad, and you want it so quickly, and you want it now, you're going to do a lot of potentially negative things to get to it. And so there's a lot of, it's fueled by that attachment versus fueled by the passion you have for that job or for that industry or whatever it may be. And so if we're able to really just pause and question yourself, question the thoughts and question the intentions we have behind those things that we want, and see where they're coming from and why they're coming up. And if there's no, I'll use the word poison behind it, right? Because in Buddhism we have the 3 poisons of ignorance, greed, and anger. If it doesn't fall under one of those categories, then it's okay to move on. But if any one of those poisons are included or attached to that object or that goal or that intention, then there's a huge not a huge, there's a big potentiality that one of the poisons will eventually kill you sooner, pretty much. Hopefully it answered that question. Good question though. But it's also think about it that it's when a lot of people strive for things, right? Especially especially career-wise, because depending on the type of career, some careers are very lucrative. Sometimes they're very hard to come by, or it's not as easy to get into the field that you want to get, right? And so everyone is competing with each other. And what's I going with this? Oh, everyone's competing with each other. And they're always fighting, they're always, do everything that you can possibly do to get what you want. But at the end of the day, the big reminder should be, what's my favorite word? Vinny knows this. Vinny, what's my favorite word?
Impermanence.
Permanence. It's all impermanent, right? So all that striving, all that attachment, all that doing and throwing and arguing and hating and liking and disliking and loving and blah, 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 all this is impermanent anyway, right? Because impermanence, the true realization of impermanence, will never allow you to attach to anything. Not even your own parents, not even your significant other, not even your own children, right? I don't mean that in a way that you won't love them or care for them, but the attachment here is not holding on to them as if they were impermanent. Sorry, as if they were permanent, right? Because if you hang on to something or anyone as if they were permanent, that they will never change, they will never grow, they'll never age, they'll never get sick, and they'll never die. All these things that are inevitable. If you cling to that so tightly, then whatever happens, if they get a scratch, if they get sick, if they have to leave you for an hour, if they have to move away, all this does a lot of damage to you, psychologically, emotionally, physically sometimes, right? And so the true realization of impermanence allows you to accept any change, right? Because we are, unfortunately, a species that wants impermanent things to be permanent all the time, right? We never want our loved ones to age or get sick or to die. We never want our car to stop working on us or just die in the middle of the highway while we're driving. We never want our job to let us go. We never want food to never be there. We never want air to never be there. We want all these things all the time. And we hang on to them as if they will last forever. But they don't. And when they don't, we get so distraught by these changes because we don't accept it, right? We all have a very superficial understanding of impermanence, right? We know logically that things don't last forever, right? We all know this. But this is a superficial understanding, right? But a true, deep, penetrated realization of impermanence will never allow you to attach to anything, will never allow you to cling to things, will never allow you to not accept change. Because of all the things in this entire universe, the one thing that every single cell, every single atom has in common is change. But that's what makes life in the universe so beautiful. It's because of change. If nothing ever changed, we would never appreciate anything. If flowers never died, we would never appreciate it while it lived. If there was no sunset or sunrises, we would never appreciate it, because if the sun's always there, we would never appreciate the sunsets or the sunrises. If it was always hot, we wouldn't appreciate when it's cooler. If it's always cool, then we wouldn't appreciate when it's sunny, right? And so it's change that allows us to appreciate and love and take care of things. But it's also change that causes us suffering. Which is why the Buddha gave us this beautiful path of the middle way. Yeah, enjoy all the fancy stuff, but also don't cling to the things that aren't so fancy, right? Be somewhere right in the middle. And that middleness will alleviate so much suffering. Yes, sir.
So in our situation, I think most of the time people quit like they are passionate or they are silent is like attachment to self or not understanding the permanence of self is main suffering there, like people they get attached too much and they passionate about what they don't understand, don't care anything else. So taking credits and all those things are minor things. But the biggest thing is keeping the job in neutral way is hard without attaching. And the reason is people don't like to see change in the job, especially switching to some other thing or somebody assigning them to different tasks or application or whatever it is. And they're passionate about I'm doing everything right, and they're doing everything right, but they can't see the change. And that change is basically important performance. And that's where the suffering comes. People get so passionate, so much pride on their job, and they are doing everything right, but then they get, and then they quit or fire or whatever it is. So that's the attachment to self. That will not impermanence of self.
Right.
We understand the impermanence of other things, we understand zero. We don't understand that this body and we are suffering. That's the
back in the day when I was working toward my corporate career ladder, at one point I used to work at HB at the headquarters downtown. I was an analyst. And I was an analyst for a couple of years, and but I was like an analyst 1, and I was trying to get to the next level, right? So I was promised a promotion 3 times, okay? First time, like, sorry, we had to cancel the job for whatever reason. Second time, I think it was the same reason, or it was the wrong time, or whatever, something. The third time, I was like, listen, if you don't give me this promotion, I'm gonna quit. Like, this is like, I'm giving you an ultimatum here, right? So I didn't get the third one because, again, another excuse. And so, of course, I didn't want to be a liar, so I quit. I was like, oh, I ruined one of my favorite jobs I've ever had in my life because I gave an ultimatum and they didn't catch my bluff. And of course, I didn't want to be a liar, so I had to quit. I was like, I'm not going to turn around. I'm like, just kidding. I actually do want this job. I did, but I had to leave, right?
And that's the part of ego. You say something, you quit, and it's on what?
Right.
Do this way, do my way.
Right. Because most people won't actually quit, right? But I was very determined. But then I quit, and then I started working for a bank, and I ended up making way more money than I would have ever made at HB anyway. So I was like, you know what? I guess it was a win-win, for me at least. But to me, that was my time period in life where I was so attached to this position or this job or this promotion that I ended my career pretty much, at least there. Then I became a data analyst and started writing code and whatever. So I took a whole opposite spectrum of what I used to do. It's all right. But yeah, if I was as wise as I was back then, I would have made better decisions. Maybe, actually, I don't know if I would have made a different decision since I ended up in a better place anyway, right? Anyway, good question.
If I may, I was talking with my wife recently about that. So the topic was retirement, right? So that's what happens. I was reading recently, when people retire, they're so attached to their role, their position, that when they're retired, now they really have to meet themselves and work on themselves. It's very uncomfortable for people. They're not used to that. They're used to that role.
Right.
So it's a big challenge for a lot of people to actually meet who they really are, and then who are you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is why people hate being bored, right? Because being bored means you have nothing to do. But doing nothing is still doing something, right? But it's doing something quietly with yourself. And because people can't really stand being by themselves for too long, right? Because they don't want to face themselves. Because when you're quiet and alone, you have nothing to do and you're just thinking, right? You have all these emotions may arise, you have traumas that may arise, you have past experiences that you regret may arise. And so people are like, oh no, I don't want that. Let's go do something else. Let's go watch meaningless TV. Let's go do drugs. Let's go to the bar. Let's go party. Let's do blah, blah, blah. Because they can't stand being with themselves, right? My dad was the same way when he's now actually retired. But it took him like 5 years to actually retire, because every time he retired, he's like, I'm bored. I need something to do. So he would go back to work. And after he was like, you know what, I think it's time to retire. So he'd retire for a few months, and then he was like, no, I got to go back to work. So he kept on going back and forth to work because he was so used to doing something, right? Which is, unfortunately, that's how we're shaped by society, right? This is how society literally shapes us since the day we were born, right? You're given a name, you're given a designation, depending on your family even, right? And who your family is, right? You're subjected to all these different environments and expectations, and right, you have to go to school, get a good degree, get a good job, have a family, have a good career, work your way up, and have all this money for retirement. And by the time you retire, you have like 5 years left to live. It's like, hopefully not, right? Hopefully you have much more than 5 years, but you get the point, right? Like we have less time to actually live life because of society, right? So you work for 65 years, 70 years, and then you have a quarter of that left to actually live. And most people, unfortunately, aren't really that healthy, so they really can't do much, right? They can't really travel as much as they wanted to when they were younger. They can't do as many things as they wanted to when they were younger. So it's a struggle to be by ourselves. It's a struggle to have nothing to do. And it's so funny to me when people complain about having nothing to do. I'm like, that's literally my favorite thing to do. So do nothing. I would trade you all that I own to just lay in bed and stare at my ceiling, to be quite honest. That's why I do my best thinking.
That being said, what you said is the boredom. And being bored with the time. I want to use the word freedom. But a lot of people don't see it that way. Because it's like being in one with oneself at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that it's very hard for people to accept that freedom of time and go within it? journey in life.
Have you ever done anything you regretted, deeply regretted in life? Do you think of it just randomly, just for shits and giggles? You just bring it up to memory and think about it?
Yeah.
Do you struggle with it, or do you have fun with it?
At one point, I struggled with it a lot, and when, I'm being honest with myself, at times that I've gotten fired from work, and that's the times that it comes back, a lot of, regrets,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I have learned to pick up a book and read so I can learn how to deal with it.
At least you did something. Because most people don't, right? And that not doing something, right? Especially when someone does something that's very regretful or had caused trauma, most people don't deal with it when it's happening, right? They kind of just, they either act out or they suppress. And neither option is really beneficial for the most part. But most people suppress. And it's that suppression that then later on brings it back up, right? And it's like, hey, let's recollect, or let's remember that struggle. Let's remember that harmful time of our life, or that, whatever struggle that we're going through. But that's also a cause of why a lot of times people can't be by themselves either, right? Because then those memories come back up, and nobody wants to remember a struggle. Nobody wants to go through all that trauma again, right? But if we know how to accept it, if we know how to welcome it with compassion and openness and understanding, and really work with that suffering, then it eventually stops becoming a source of suffering, right? For years, I regretted getting up and quitting HB. For years, even after I got a much better job, I regretted it. And so I had to get to the point and ask myself, why? Why am I regretting this? Why am I regretting a decision that's actually very courageous, right? Because who would ever give an ultimatum and actually stick with it, right? My best friend, who worked not with me at the time, but still at HB, did probably a year later, did the exact same thing with her job. But she didn't quit. She was like, I'm just kidding, I'm gonna stay here because I need a job, right? And so there was nothing, so she wouldn't have struggled the way I struggled. But I had to sit with myself eventually, ask myself, why was I so hurt about a decision that was beyond my control? But that was it. It was because it was out of my control. Because everybody wants to feel like they're in control of their lives. Of course you want to be in control of how you work, where you work, how often you work, for whom you work, where, all these questions, right? You want to be in full control of it. That's why people negotiate salaries, because you want to control how much money you want to make. You want to control how much you have to go into the office, or from home, or travel, or whatever, et cetera, right? There is a sense of control that we all feel obligated to have, right? But unfortunately, that obligation isn't yours to have. That control isn't yours to have. Because the only control you have is yourself. So if something happened outside of you that you don't like, well, sorry, get over it. And that's where this realization of impermanence is very helpful, because it won't allow you to struggle so much from something that is outside of your own control. If someone hurt you, if someone fired you, if someone left you, if someone our wife, my. Who's my? Who am I? You're only a mother, you're only a wife, you're only a sister, you're only a friend in that very moment. That's not your entire life. But people make it their entire life. And when you make something your entire life, you suffer so easily, with so much. This is why self, anatta, in Buddhism is a huge topic, because it's the realization of letting that self go. Because if you let that self go, then there's nothing to run after. There's no ego there to say, this is my husband that should be doing husbandly things. These are my kids that should be cleaning the rooms or doing their homework. This is my boss that should be managing the team correctly. This is my governor that should be doing well for the community, blah, 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 right? There's this identity that everyone tries so hard to protect and to preserve and to gain more influence and power and prestige and titles and all this other stuff. Then what does it do? So the more you're able to let go, just accept things for what they are, right? And understand that not everything's in your control. Not everything's going to go your way. People aren't going to live up to your expectations 100% of the time, right? Things come and go. Things change. Everything's impermanent. Then there's nothing left to cause suffering except the acceptance of reality. And what more freedom do you want than that?
I think change is another meaning of impermanence. From here, the first question is we are more passionate or more attached to the job, and the longer we play towards that, like it's in this situation, the longer you hold on to that. So we are attached with that job, whatever we are doing, like garden situation or any situation or home situation, people are attached too much, and they don't want to see change, something happening. Whatever they're doing, and they're so passionate, so intentional in that way or it's been a while. So that's why I think some people can't change, they like to drugs or they can't take it, and they just go along and they get drugs. And in some situations, some people can handle it, but it takes longer, and they still hold on to those parts of the memories or those, or why did I go, why did I get fired, why did it have to be level, whatever the best. But the ego is the one, the second part, change. Change is another name of impermanence. Because we don't see that love is impermanent, that love is a temporary thing. And so we didn't see the things as they were what they are. And we just holding on to that and only doing it was okay. No, I recommend you like doing things better than anybody else. I would
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. The situation we got into that was because it's because of ourselves. Because at that time, the situation we got into the fighting or creating situation because of our ego. Because we wanted to change our way. So I am doing the thing that's just I need to get emotional. I need to get creative with money or at least I'm doing nothing. I'm the one who
Right.
and I'm the best. I deserve it. And you're doing that, but the company the day wants to please you or what going on doing it, but that's how corporate really works. If you were doing the most we just doing the vaccine. So
That's unfortunately true.
but the thing is, the thinking is to change what we call governance, and that we are still holding on to all these subjects, and the root cause of it was
The motto, the mantra that I usually tell myself when things don't go my way is worry about what you can control and let go of what you cannot. Because if you keep that in mind, then whatever happens will happen. So worry about what you can control and let go of what you cannot. Because the more you tell yourself that, the more you realize you actually don't have as much control over things as you think you do. Right? Even when you're there at home cooking a meal, right? And you are in control of how hot the pan is, of how much ingredients you put in, or how little, though you have some control over how the meal is being prepped. But there's still a very small chance that you're going to burn it, or you'll miss an ingredient, or you put too much of an ingredient, or too little of something, right? There's always a chance of something not going your way, even though you're in a situation where you do technically have full control over it, right? So then what happens when we get distracted or we're absent-minded or multitasking, the dish does burn? What happens? We get upset. We start cussing out the food for burning because somehow it's the food's fault for burning and not yours. You're not taking accountability for your own misactions. And that goes for anything in life. And that's another thing. People don't want to take responsibility. They don't want to take accountability. They think, well, most people think that the world revolves around them. Which is so funny, because we're no one. Literally, we're specks of dust in a giant, vast ocean of the entire universe. We're literally nothing. We are nothing. Nothing. I don't know if I'm a huge space geek. I'm going to say that, right? I almost became an astrophysicist, until I just realized how much I actually hated physics. But actually, I couldn't get past chemistry for some reason. But anyway, if you've ever seen the models of just our galaxy, right? So you've seen a model of our galaxy and see the space between our nearest galaxy, Andromeda, right? And seeing the space between the next galaxy, and just seeing the space between our very small cluster of galaxies, right? And the Milky Way, compared to all the other galaxies and all the other star systems. Like, the universe is so unfathomably huge, right? Like, the human brain cannot comprehend the size of it, right? And so it's quite literally picking up a grain of sand and throwing it into all the oceans in the world, right? That's like Earth in our entire galaxy. Like, that's how small Earth is. It's a grain of sand in the entire oceans that we have. So if Earth is that small, how small are we that's on that tiny speck of Earth? So I always remind myself of that. I'm like, I'm not that important. Nothing I do is really that important, which is probably why I'm an existentialist. I don't believe in a purpose of life. I think the only purpose in life is to live. At one point, I used to say the only purpose in life is to be happy. But then, upon a lot of reflections and realizations, I came to the conclusion that happiness and the kind of happiness I was preaching had to do with external circumstances, which is wrong. So I've amended that saying. So the purpose of life isn't to be happy, it's just to live. To be free, to be free.
To live in wholeness, right? Because it's like you mentioned something about cleaning, right? Cleaning is part of the ego, but to live in wholeness, because we can also live in wholeness. Am I making sense? Yeah, with wholeness within. What I mean by wholesomeness, but the other word that I've heard in here that there was a difference between wholeness and then there was a
Wholesome and unwholesome?
yes.
Okay.
Right? I mean, the un is very hard to live.
I think living an unwholesome life is much easier than living a wholesome life. Right? At least in my opinion. And I say that because it's easy to do bad things, but it's much harder to do the right thing. It's easier to ignore inequality than to do something about equality. It's easier to ignore discrimination and bias in the world and inequality. It's easier to ignore all that than to actually do something about it. Right? How often do we ignore the homeless? People who are asking with a sign, asking for money. How easy do we ignore them? Most people literally pretend they're not even there. They literally pretend as if they do not exist. Because it's easier than handing them $1 or $2 for whatever reason. Right? So it's much easier to live an unwholesome life than it is to live a wholesome one. So to live a wholesome one is to do as much good as much as you can in your capability. But people don't do that because it requires work. It requires effort. It requires energy. Most people don't want to put that in. They don't want to use all that up. Right? Great question. All right, we have time for maybe one more question. Yes, ma'am.
I know you said during meditation, it's okay to think, and the purpose is to not stop our thoughts. Sometimes I feel like if I think too much during the meditation, I failed. So what is the balance of the right amount of thoughts when you're meditating? Or how do I not feel like I failed at meditating if I keep thinking, or I constantly have internal monologue going?
So, so my hour meditation this morning, 95% of the time I was thinking. So out of the 1 hour, I was probably clear-minded for maybe 5 minutes. Like I've said before, It's okay to think as long as you know that you're thinking, right? It's the knowing and the acknowledging, the labeling of the thinking that is meditation, right? So if you're sitting in an hour meditating and all you're doing is thinking and thinking and thinking and having this internal monologue, fine. But know that it happened, acknowledge it, be aware of it, label it, and it'll naturally go away. And of course, another thought will arise and more monologues will come up, more stories will happen. And again, bring it to attention, acknowledge it, label it, it'll go away, it comes back again, it goes and comes and goes and comes, right? So there's always going to be a struggle. There's always going to be thinking. But you just have to know that you're thinking. That, the knowing, the acknowledging, the labeling, that is meditation. Right? So think all you want. Meditation is training the mind. So the more we recognize and label, right? You're building up that muscle memory, and eventually the mind will start to realize what it's trying to do. The mind will realize what it itself is trying to do, right? And eventually the thinking will start to lessen and will start to be as dominant as it is. But it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of patience. But don't think ever that you're failing. Because as long as you're bringing to attention those thoughts and you're making that label or you're making at least a recognition of it, that is the actual, that's meditating. That's more of a meditative practice than sitting down in a meditation pose. So don't get discouraged. Don't think that we're failing. You're not failing. You're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. But it will take time for those thoughts to slow down. It'll take time for the thoughts to be shorter. And it'll take time for the mind to be clearer. Like I said, my hour of meditation this morning, 95% of it was thinking, right? But I don't think, even though I was thinking, I didn't consider it a failed session because I knew I was thinking. Yeah, some of those thoughts took me a few minutes to recognize because they were entertaining enough to keep my attention. But eventually I'm like, oh, this isn't meditating. And so that, oh, this isn't meditating is meditation. And I go back to my breath, following the breath. Another thought arose, played with it a little bit, kicked it out, sat there for a few seconds, another thought arose, realized it, kicked it out, went back to my breath, stayed for a little bit, another thought arose, and it's a process, right? That is the main function of the mind, is to think. So of course, it's not like we can just turn off that switch manually. Unfortunately, we can't, right? Unless you want to put yourself in a coma.
Like a different concept of doing meditation, like when we have a lot of unwholesome thoughts, for example. And then in that scenario, you need to switch to kindness meditation. Or we have some like unnecessary random thoughts, like one mind is just wandering out and you switch to some sort of numbering or something. Mm-hmm. Just to keep like trying to minimize your unwholesome thoughts and start to increase and being aware immediately when the unwholesome thoughts arise, just stop them. And then at the same time, we start daydreaming or doing things which are standing quite slowly.
Right.
Also something which don't have it. So recognizing them and being aware that they will arise and being aware that otherwise I will just keep wandering on the road. I had this job with HEB and then I did something like that and just keep coming back and just meditating. That's just not a good way
Right. Which is why I always bring up the putting the labels in buckets, right? Because when you put labels in buckets, then at the end of the session, you can see what bucket is fullest, and whatever label that bucket is probably something we need to work on. Because if it's constantly becoming a struggle, and it's constantly being brought up during meditation, then it's something that's causing you enough distress to not allow you to have a good session, right? And so if you're able to work through whatever that label is, or category, or whatever, and fix it, I guess, right? And then it will stop being a recurring incident during meditation, and now you have one less thing to worry about during the meditation, right? And so, as Vinay said, if it's, for example, if it's unwholesome thoughts, if it's thoughts of ill will or hatred or whatever, if it's that kind of, if that's the labels or the bucket that's fullest, then, because then Buddhist meditation, right, if we're using the 5 hindrances, for example, as the labels for these buckets, and if you're having the thoughts of hatred or anger or whatever, then it falls under the bucket of ill will, the second hindrance. And the antidote to that hindrance is loving kindness meditation, metta meditation, right? And so you use metta to pretty much rally against those ill-will thoughts and feelings, and it starts to assuage some of those unwholesome thoughts and feelings, and it becomes a lesser cause of suffering during the meditation. And it eventually disappears, hopefully. That's the intention, at least. Great questions. All right, that is time. So please join me in invoking the Buddha's name 3 times. We'll go to transfer the merit, then go to chanting. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. For any positive karmic action we have accumulated here today, we wish to transfer the merit to all sentient beings and wish them full enlightenment. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. We're continuing to chant the Amitabha Sutra. I believe it's on page 161. Speech and mind in perfect oneness, I send my heart along with the sound of the bell. May the hearers awaken from forgetfulness and transcend all anxiety and sorrow. Listen, listen, this wonderful sound brings me back to my true home. Gratitude we offer this incense to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas throughout space and time. May it be fragrant as earth herself reflect our careful efforts, our wholehearted mindfulness, and the fruit of understanding slowly ripen. May we and all beings be companions of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awaken from forgetfulness and realize our true home. Incense in the censer now is burning, all the Dharma realm in every place, auspicious clouds appearing, our sincere intention thus fulfilling. As all Buddhas now show their perfect body, homage to the incense cloud canopy, Bodhisattva and great Bodhisattvas. To the eternally abiding Buddhas, the supreme Dharma and sagely Sangha throughout the Dharma realm and the realm of empty space, 3 periods of time. To the fundamental teacher Shakyamuni Buddha Maitreya, honored future Buddha Manjushri, great wisdom Bodhisattva, universal great conduct Bodhisattva, all Dharma guarding Deva Bodhisattvas, and the glorious mountain assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. ultimate bliss, Avalokiteshvara, great compassion, Bodhisattva, great strength, Bodhisattva, earth store, great vow, Bodhisattva, and the assembly of great pure sea like Bodhisattva. Sori, sori, maha, sori, so, sori, swaha, om, sori, sori, maha, sori, so, sori, swaha, om, sori, sori, maha, sori, so, sori, swaha. Great compassionate Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Namo. Great compassionate Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Namo. Great compassionate Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Ratnatrayaya Namo Bodhisattvaya Mahasattvaya Mahakarunikaya Om Sarvaravaye Sodanarasya Namoskritvahi Mamarya Parokiteshvara Ramdava Namo Narakindi He Mahavaswami Sarvaharatu Shobham Ajiyam Sarvasattva Namo Vasava Namo Vakamavidhato Taryatha Om Avarokelo is born on my lips. This is a new day, and I vow to go through it in mindfulness. The sun of wisdom has risen, shining in every direction. Noble Sangha diligently bring your mind into meditation. Namo Shakyamuni Bodhaya Namo Shakyamuni Bodhaya Namo Shakyamuni Bodhaya. All my past created negative karma, all by beginningless greed, anger, and delusion from my body, speech, and mind. Now before the Buddha I repent. Namo Samanta Bhadra Bodhisattva. Namo Samanta Bhadra Bodhisattva. Namo Samanta Bhadra Bodhisattva. Unsurpassed, profound, and wonderful Dharma is difficult to encounter in hundreds of millions of eons. I now see and hear, receive and uphold it, and I vow to fathom the Tathagata's true meaning. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. And bodhisattvas in the vast assembly of the lotus pool. Namo Buddhas and sattvas in the vast assembly of the lotus pool. Namo Bodhisattvas in the vast assembly of the lotus pool. Have heard at one time the Buddha dwelt a Shavasi in the Jeta Grove, in the garden of the benefactor of orphans and the solitary, together with a gathering of great bhikshus, 1,200 in all. Great Arhatum, the assembly knew and recognized elder Shariputra, Mahamodgarayan, Mahakashyapa, Mahakatyana, Mahakashuthila, Rivata, Shuddhipantaka, Ananda, Rahula, Gavampat, Pindula, Bharadvaja, Karunayan, Mahakafina, Vakura, Aniruddha, and others such as these, all great disciples, together with all the bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, Dharma Prince, Manjushri, Ajita Bodhisattva, Gandhasan Bodhisattva, Nityodukta Bodhisattva, and others such as these, all great bodhisattvas, and together with Shakaji among gods, great multitudes from all the heavens. At the time the Buddha told the elder Shariputra, passing from here through hundreds of thousands of millions of Buddha lands to the west, there is a world called ultimate bliss. In this land a Buddha called Amitabha right now teaches the Dharma. Shariputra, for what reason is this land called ultimate bliss? All living beings of this land endure none of the sufferings, but enjoy every. Therefore it is called ultimate bliss. Moreover, Shariputra, this land of ultimate bliss is everywhere, surrounded by 7 tiers of railing, 7 layers of netting, and 7 rows of trees, all formed from the for treasures, and for this reason named ultimate bliss. Moreover, Shadi, land of ultimate bliss, has pools of the 7 jewels filled with heavy meritorious virtues. The bottom of each pool is pure, spread over with golden sand. On the 4 sides are stairs of gold, silver, lapis, azul, and crystal. Above are raised pavilions adorned with gold, silver, lapis, lazuli, crystal, mother of pearl, red pearls, and carnelian. In the pools are lotuses as large as carriage wheels, green colored of green light, yellow colored of yellow light, red colored of red light, white colored of white, subtly, wonderfully fragrant and pure. Shadi Putra, the realization of the land of ultimate bliss, is thus meritoriously adored. Moreover, Shadi Putra, in the Buddha land there is always heavenly music, and the ground is yellow gold in the 6 periods of the day, and a heavenly rain of mandara flowers falls in throughout the clear morning. Each living being of that land with sacks full of the myriads of wonderful flowers makes offer. Hundreds of thousands of millions of Buddhas of the other directions. At mealtime they return to their own land, and having eaten they stroll around Shadi Putra, the realization of the land of ultimate bliss, thus meritoriously adored. Moreover, Shadi Putra, in this land there are always rare and wonderful varied colored birds, white cranes, peacocks, parrots, and egrets, calavincas, and 2-headed birds in the 6 periods of the day, and the flocks of birds sing forth harmonious and elegant sounds. Their clear and joyful sounds proclaim the 5 roots, the 5 powers, the 7 Bodhi shares, the 8 sagely way shares, and just these when living beings of this land hear these sounds, they are all together mindful of the Buddha, mindful of the Dharma, and mindful of the Sangha. Shadi Putra, do not say that these birds are born as retribution for their karmic offenses. For what reason in this Buddha land there are no 3 evil ways of rebirth? Shadi Putra, in this Buddha land not even the names of the 3 evil ways exist. How much less their actuality, desiring that the Dharma proclaimed Amitabha Buddha by transformation made this multitude of birds. Shadi Putra, in that Buddha land when the soft wind blows, the rows of jewel trees and jewel nets give forth subtle and wonderful sounds like 100,000 kinds of music played at the same time. All those who these sounds naturally bring forth in their hearts mindfulness of the Buddha, mindfulness of the Dharma, and mindfulness of the Sangha. Shadi Putra, the realization of the land of ultimate bliss is thus meritoriously adorned. Shadi Putra, what do you think? Why is this Buddha called Amitabha? Shadi Putra, the brilliance of the Buddha's light is measureless, illumining the lands of the 10 directions everywhere without obstruction. For this reason he is called Amitabha. Moreover, Shadi Putra, the life of the Buddha and that of his people extends for measureless, limitless asamkaya kalpas. For this reason he is called Amitabha and Shadi Putra, since Amitabha realized Buddhahood, 10 kalpas have passed. Moreover, Shadi Putra, measureless, limitless sound hearer, disciples on arhats, their number incalculable. The soul so is the assembly of bodhisattva. Shadi Putra, the realization of the land of ultimate bliss is thus meritoriously adored. Moreover, Shadi Putra, those living beings born in the land of the ultimate bliss are all in the stage of non-regression. Among them are many who in this very life will dwell in Buddhahood. Their number is extremely many. It is incalculable and only in measureless, limitless asamkaya kalpa else could it be spoken? Shariput, those living beings who here should vow, I wish to be born in that land, and why those who thus attain are all superior and good people, all gather together in one place. Shariput, one cannot have few good roots, blessings, virtues, and casual connections to attain birth in that land. Shariputra, good man or a good woman who hears spoken Amitabha and holds a name, whether for 1 day, 2 days, 3, 4, 5 days, 6 days, as long as 7 days, with one heart unconfused. When this person approaches, of light before him will appear Amitabha and all the assembly of holy ones. When the end comes, his heart is without inversion. In Amitabha's land of ultimate bliss, he will attain rebirth. Shariput, because I see this benefit, I speak these words. If living beings hear this spoken, they should make the vow, I will be born in that land. Shariput, now praise the inconceivable benefit from the merit and virtue of Amitabha. Thus in the east are also Akshobhya Buddha, Sumaru appearance Buddha, grace Sumaru Buddha, Sumaru light Buddha, wonderful sun Buddha, all Buddha such as Burles as Genji stands in his own land. Each brings forth the appearance of a vast and long tongue everywhere, covering the 3,000 great thousand worlds, and speaks the sincere and actual words. All you living beings should believe, praise, and reverence the inconceivable merit of this sutra of the mindful one, of whom all Buddhas are protective. Shariputra, in the southern world are Sun Buddha, Buddha, well-known light Buddha, great blazing shoulders Buddha, Sumaru Lam Buddha, measureless figure Buddha, all Buddhas such as these numberless, as Genji stands in his own land. Each brings forth the appearance of a vast and long tongue everywhere, covering the 3,000 great thousand worlds, and speaks the sincere and actual words. All you living beings should believe, praise, and hold in reverence the inconceivable and virtue of the sutra of the mindful one, of whom all Buddhas are protective. Shariputra, in the western world are measureless life Buddha, measureless appearance Buddha, measureless curtain Buddha, great light Buddha, great brightness Buddha, jeweled appearance, pure light Buddha, all Buddhas such as these numberless, as Genji stands in his own land. Each brings forth the appearance of a vast and long tongue everywhere, covering the 3,000 great thousand worlds, and speaks the sense actual words. All you living beings should believe, praise, and hold in reverence the inconceivable merit and virtue of the sutra of the mindful one, of whom all Buddhas are protective. Shariputra, northern world are blazing shoulders Buddha, most victorious sun Buddha, hard to injure Buddha, sun birth Buddha, net brightness Buddha, all Buddhas such as these numberless, as Genji stands in his own land. Each brings forth the appearance of a vast and long tongue everywhere, covering great thousand worlds, and speaks the sincere and actual words. All you living beings should believe, praise, and hold in reverence the inconceivable merit and virtue of the sutra of the mindful one, of whom all Buddhas are protective. Shariputra, lower lion Buddha, well-known Buddha, famous light Buddha, Dharma Buddha, Dharma curtain Buddha, Dharma maintaining Buddha, all Buddhas such as these numberless, as Genji stands in land. Each brings forth the appearance of a vast and long tongue everywhere, covering the 3,000 great thousand worlds, and speaks the sincere and actual words. All you living beings should believe, praise, and reverence the inconceivable merit and virtue of the sutra of the mindful one, of whom all Buddhas are protective. Shariputra, in the world above are pure sun Buddha, king of stars Buddha, superior fragrance Buddha, fragrant light Buddha, great blazing shoulders, varied colors, jewels and flower, adornment body Buddha, Salatri king Buddha, jewel flower, virtue Buddha, vision of all Buddha, such as Mount Sumeru Buddha, all Buddha, such as these numberless, as Genji stands in his own land. Each brings forth the appearance of a vast and long, everywhere covering the 3,000 great thousand worlds, and speaks the sincere and actual words. All you living beings should believe, praise, and hold in reverence the inconceivable merit and virtue of the Sutra of the Mindful Buddhas are protected. Shariputra, what do you think? Why is it called Sutra of the Mindful One, of whom all Buddhas are protected? Shariputra, if a good man or good woman hears this sutra and holds to it, and hears the names of all these Buddhas, this good man or woman will be the mindful one, of whom Buddhas are protective, and will irreversibly attain to Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore, Shariputra, all of you should believe and accept my words, and those Buddhas speak. Shariputra, if there are people who have already made the vow, who now make the vow, or who are about to make the vow, I desire to be born in Amitabha's land. These people, whether born in the past, now being born, or to be born in the future, all will irreversibly attain to Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore, Shariputra, all good men and good women, if they are among those who have faith, should make the vow, I will be born in that land. Shari, just as I now praise the inconceivable merit and virtue of all Buddhas, all those equally praise my inconceivable merit and virtue, saying these words. Shakyamuni Buddha can complete extremely rare and difficult deeds in the Saha land, in the evil time of the 5 impurities, in the midst of the Kalpa, ready the view impurity, the affliction impurity, the living beings impurity, and the life impurity. He can attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Living beings speak this dharma, which in the whole world is hard to believe. Shariputra, you should know that I, in the evil time of the 5 impurities, practice these difficult deeds, attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. And for although speak this dharma, difficult to believe, extremely difficult, after the Buddha spoke this sutra, Shariputra, all the bhikshus, all the gods, men, and asuras, and others from all the worlds, hearing what the Buddha has said, joyously welcomed, faithfully accepted, bowed, and withdrew. At the time the Buddha and Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, proclaimed the Sukhavati Vyuhadharani Namo Amitabhaya Tathagata Tadyata Amrita Bhavi Amrita Siddham Bhavi Amrita Vikrante Amrita Vikranta Gamini Gagana Kirtakare Swaha Namo Tabaya Tathagataya Tadyata Amrita Bhavi Amrita Siddham Amrita Vikrante Amrita Vikranta Gamini Gagana Kirtakare Swaha Namo Amitabhaya Tathagataya Tadyata Amrita Bhavi Amrita Siddham Bhavi Amrita Vikranta Gamini Gagana Kirtakare Swaha. May all the 4 kinds of beings reach the jeweled land, and the beings of all 3 realms be born from lotus. May all the myriad ghosts attain the 3-fold worthiness, and the countless sentient ones ascend the 10 grounds. Amitabha's body, the color of gold, the splendor of his hallmarks has no peer. The light of his brow shines around 100 worlds wide, as the seas are his eyes peering, shining in his brilliance. By transformation are countless bodhisattvas and infinite Buddhas. His 48 vows will be duration in 9 lotus stages. We reach the farthest shore. Namo Amitabha Buddha, infinite light and life in the land of ultimate bliss. Namo Amitabha Buddha, 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 Namo Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, Namo Sattva, Namo Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, Namo Great Pure Sea Light, Namo Great Strength Bodhisattva, Namo Great Strength Bodhisattva, Namo Great Strength Bodhisattva, Namo Shittigatva Bodhisattva, Namo Shittigatva Bodhisattva, Namo Shittigatva Bodhisattva, Namo Great Pure Sea Light Bodhisattvas, Namo Great Pure Sea Light Bodhisattvas, Namo Great Pure Sea Light Bodhisattvas, Part of the Prajna Paramita, the Bodhisattva Avalokita, while moving in the decourse of Prajna Paramita, shed light on the five skandhas and found them equally. Through this penetration he overcame ill-beingness and Shariputra. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form, form is not other than emptiness, emptiness is not other than form. The same is true with feelings, perceptions, mental formation, consciousnessless and Shariputra. All dharmas are marked with emptiness, they are neither produced nor destroyed, neither defiled nor immaculate, neither increasing nor decreasing. Therefore in emptiness there is neither form nor feelings, nor perceptions or mental formation. Eye or ear or nose or tongue or body or mind, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object of mind, no realms of elements, no interdependent origins, and no extinction of them, no ill-being, no cause of ill-being, no end of ill-being, and no path, no no attainment, because there is no attainment. The Bodhisattvas grounded in Prajna Paramita find no obstacles for their minds, having no obstacles they overcome fear, liberating themselves forever from illusion and realizing perfect nirvana. All Buddhas in the past, present, and future arrive at Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore one should know that perfect understanding the highest mantra, the unequal mantra, the destroyer of ill-being, the incorruptible truth, the mantra of Prajna. Should therefore be proclaimed. Gate, gate, para, sam, gate, bodhi. Gate, para, sam, gate, bodhi, swaha. Gate, para, sam, gate, bodhi, swaha. Namo sarva tata gata valokite yam sambara sambara hom. Namo sarva Tavalokite yam sambara sambara hom. Namo sarva tata gata valokite yam sambara sambara hom. Namo soro paya tata gata yata yata hom. Soro soro prasoro swaha. Namo soro paya gata yata yata hom. Soro soro prasoro swaha. Namo soro paya tata gata yata yata hom. Soro soro prasoro swaha. Hom gagana sambhava vajra hom. Om gagana sambhava vajra. Gagana sambhava vajra. May these meritorious virtues adorn the Buddha's pure land, repaying for kinds of kindness above and aiding those suffering in the past below. May those who see and hear of this all bring forth the resolve for Bodhi, and when this retribution body is over, be born together in the land of ultimate bliss. Namo Amitabha Buddha, Namo Amitabha Buddha, Namo Amitabha Buddha. take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and of love. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community that lives in harmony and awareness. In the refuge of Buddha, I clearly see the path of light and beauty in the world, dwelling in the refuge of Dharma. I learn to open many doors on the path of transformation, dwelling the refuge of Sangha, shining light that supports me, keeping my practice free of obstruction. Refuge in the Buddha, in myself I aspire to help all people recognize their own awakened nature, realizing the mind of love, taking refuge in the Dharma. In myself I aspire to help all people fully master the ways of practice and walk together on the path of liberation, taking refuge in the Sangha. In myself I aspire to help all people build fourfold communities to embrace all beings and support their transformation. Citing the sutras, practicing the way of awareness gives rise to benefits without limit. We vow to share the fruits with all beings. We vow to offer tribute. Parents, teachers, friends, and numerous beings who give guidance and support along the